First of all, I think that it's very well observed that the neoliberal forces or neoliberal actors and the informal actors are now shaping the city. They are interdependent. They have similarities. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. No, it's not working. It's silent. So again, they're the neoliberal actors and informal actors now. They are shaping the city, and they have several interdependencies, and they have several similarities. They both are self-governed. They both have some kind of autonomous structure. They don't need the state. They don't need the state at all. They're managing their spaces. They're securing their spaces. So they're maintaining their spaces, and this action happening between the neoliberal forces and the informal forces are having a silent stage, just watching what's happening with minimum intervention. The thing is that when it's always, when you see the Cairo urban pattern, you're gonna always see that there's some poor areas in the urban fabric, just attached to a rich area. Some kind of like Mohandesin and the villages inside Mohandesin, like Wafaa and Mohandesin, like Nasr City and Azbat al-Hagana. And there's some kind of agreement is happening inside the city that okay, so we are the poor areas, we're so comfortable of giving the rich areas the services, and it's well agreed. But what happened in New Cairo, it was a bit different, because it was designed and it was planned and it was invested to be a place that accommodates all kind of people, and they invested around 1 billion and 100 million pounds on public housing to accommodate around 2 million people. And actually, what happened is now there are only 130 inhabitants, and those 130 inhabitants most of them are from the upper middle class and the upper classes, where lower income classes couldn't find any means of going there for several reasons. One of the reasons is that transportation. There is no any means of public transportation there, of course, and as was mentioned in the publication here, there was some kind of intangible segregation happening to segregate all the rich people from the poor people there. It was kind of refuge for the rich people, and having exclusive space. So mainly there was this kind of intangible and non-physical walls happened there, and of course, in addition to the physical walls that surrounds all the gated communities, and the walls that surround the villas inside the walled communities as well. So, and I think I'm gonna have a question here. Is this a kind of a culture now to have everything is walled, everything is segregated, tangibly and intangibly? Maybe intangibly, the advertisements there in New Cairo that having you're gonna live a dream, the advertisement of uptown Cairo, live above it all. It's very dire that down there is trash. And actually, one of my friends was telling me yesterday that there's a TV advertisement that is about a new compound, and it's a series of ads. The guy is staying in the compound, and his mobile rang. The ringtone was a traditional Arabic song. So two guys in suits, they carried him and kicked him out, and a slogan that this place is for the elites and for the kings. And the series of ads. Another one he's eating with his hand. Another one is having a goose. So I think it was segregating psychologically anyone to go there and to stay in the nowhere public place. That it's so obvious there that there's no public place and no public space. I'm sorry. It's you can observe that it's from 8 in the morning till 5 in the afternoon or 5 in the evening. You're gonna find all the streets, all the pedestrians are mainly workers. After 5, there's no one walking the streets because it's a car-owned area. So again, my question is I think this is a reflection. The walls is a reflection of what the state always put us in, and I think it's well observed that okay, so you want to stop urbanization. Let's build a huge ring road that acts as a wall surrounding Cairo. You don't want people to crowd the streets. Let's put in a wall so that they can't crowd the streets. And actually, we're having the latest gated community now, which is the Tahrir, in the Tahrir Square, that is turning now to be walled and gated, that segregating people from there. So, if we just be extremely pragmatic for maybe 1 hour, and we know that the gates are extremely bad, and we hate the gates, and we hate the walls, and we know how do they affect the global society, or the great society. So, but if we became pragmatic, and these walls are there, and they're turning to be very important need for a large sector of social class, certain social class. So if we accept these walls, so how can we deal with these walls, since they're there and they will continue being there? And again, it's 1 hour being extremely pragmatic and extremely. So that's my concern about that. Thank you.
So I'll add a few points that and then maybe we can come back at the end to our separate questions that I'll pose here. Can you hear me in the back? Yeah. Okay. So I actually want to start with the first sort of post-February 11th reaction that all the multinational companies took advantage of this idea, and it was also embraced, I think, by a lot of citizens, which is this idea of let's build Egypt. But now that Mubarak is done, let's build. And actually, I think that was the wrong reaction. We need to stop building. As a matter of fact, we've been building a bit too much, and without thinking and criticism, and without an actual due process that guarantees that whatever is built makes sense. And I think this is what we're facing today with what's being documented in this beautiful photo essay. But also on the flip side of this coin, which is the informal developments, which we can talk about separately. But they do belong they are two sides of the same coin. So let's stop building and pause for a minute and question the processes that have brought us to this point. What are the legal frameworks? What's the professional framework? And also the most important question, which is almost never discussed, who owns the land? Who owns Egypt? I mean, we don't have statistics because that's national security. We don't talk about facts, but we need statistics. We need numbers, and I think kind of a shocking indicative point is the fact that the army owns great swaths of land surrounding the city and sometimes within the city, and that much of these gated communities that we're talking about today were actually built on land owned by the army that was then sold in opaque deals that nobody hears about. I mean, I think the problem at its core really has to do with a very important misunderstanding from those in authority, which is that architecture and planning are public activities. These are things that the public they have to live with, they have to live around, inside, outside. You have to walk around, build things. So therefore, it's a matter of public concern. But the public precisely has been taken out of this equation. So you have kind of, how do you translate iqta'in?
Feudal system.
Yes, it's a feudal system. It's a feudal system, and I would like us to, I think a few of my points, when I think about them sort of in my head, I find myself making a lot of parallels to colonial contexts. I think it might be useful to bear with me for a minute and think of a lot of these things as a, I mean, colonization wasn't just about racial difference. It's about certain practices that are legal, that are economic, and I think a lot of these practices have continued and have become much more vicious even in the last 60, 50 years specifically, definitely from Sadat onwards. But Egyptians are really the ones in charge. So I'm trying to open up questions about ownership, about the practice of architecture as a public practice, but also the legal framework and ownership is I think very central. So we can come back to these points in a bit. Also, I had a point about the relationship between, I mean, basically value. This does have a lot of value to a lot of people who are targeted with these kinds of developments. But the value of these kinds of developments and properties wouldn't be there if you have to, without devaluing what's already in place. So I think there's been a long